it's Leah. How are you today? Today I am going to be redeeming a pattern that I have had for 5 years. I purchased this pattern about 5 years ago, printed it out, and then it sat because I got pregnant and, you know, I just didn't have the time or the body at that point to make this pattern. So the pattern I am talking about is the Pauline Turia Dungarees. Now, if you follow me over on Instagram, which I suggest you do, I'm gonna put my handle right over here. I post a lot over there about what I'm making and my just like everyday life of sewing. So if you are interested in that, definitely go give me a follow. Back to this pattern. I printed this pattern out about 5 years ago. Finally got to making it about a month ago. Halfway through making it, I quickly realized that something was not right with this pattern. And what it was that I had printed the pattern in the wrong scaling. Now, thankfully, I was able to realize it and start making adjustments to the pattern as I made it. And so they still fit. Here they are. Yeah, so they're cute. They still work, but I would really like to do this pattern justice, and so I reprinted the pattern and in the right scaling this time, and I have put it together and everything is cut out, and I'm going to make another pair in black denim, and I would love for you guys to follow along with me. So if you're interested in, you know, sewing with me today, come on, let's go. Everything is cut out. I figured you guys wouldn't want to see that part. It's not that exciting. So I just cut out all the appropriate pieces in my fabric. One thing I want to mention is because my fabric is black, normal like pens or whatever aren't going to show up on it. I had got this for Christmas a few years ago. It's this chalk pen and it comes with different colors, so you can like change out the colors depending on what color your fabric is. This is so great because black, my other pens won't work on it, but I have this white chalk pen and it's amazing. It's perfect. You can see how precise the line showed up on it. So that's just like a little side note there. So everything is printed out per instruction. So one thing that I did different when I made my white ones is I cut two of this front part, like the flap for the top of the overalls, so that there was no seams showing on this part. But this is a little bit of a thicker, has no stretch denim, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it as the pattern suggests, where you fold this over and then finish the seams on the side. So the first thing to start with is you're going to take your pockets. So here are the front pockets that go along the front of your pants, and you're going to finish the seams along the curve here, and then you're going to pull up the side seams with the seam allowance, and then you're going to attach them onto the pants. So let's start there. The seams on the pockets are open, like they're raw edges, so I'm going to be finishing mine with my serger to avoid fraying. Now with the wrong sides facing me, I'm going to pin and press the seam all the way along here. Okay, now I'm going to sew 2 lines along the edge of those pockets. I'm going to sew one fairly close to the seam and then one about 1/4 inch away. Now that both those seams are done, I'm going to roll up all the side seams along that and pin them in place and get ready to sew them onto the pants. So now that our pockets are pressed on the inside like this and this side seam is finished, we're gonna add them to the front of the pants. Now it's good to note that you're gonna want to make some of the markings on the right side of your fabric. So you can see I have the pockets marked out on the front, so I know exactly where the corners of my pockets should fall. So I'm just going to pin those on to the front of my pants and get ready to sew them on. Now I'm top stitching these down with the same seam allowance that I had done previously. Next, I am going to be sewing these back pockets, and I have to fold this over by 5/8 of an inch 2 times so that the little dots on the pattern there are at the top corner. And then after I do that, I will finish the seam allowance on all around by 5/8 of an inch and then sew it to the pants. So I've sewn down these. I didn't bring you with me just because it was pretty simple. So those are sewn down, and now I'm going to finish the seams over in here. The same thing is true on the back pattern as it was on the front. You want to mark your pocket markings on the right side of your fabric because you're going to need those markings to know where to lay these pockets. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin these onto the pants. So here's one thing that I'm not really sure if it's my mistake, but I just checked that everything printed out correctly, and the sizing or the scaling is correct, but when you fold along the lines that are in showing you like where your seam allowance will be on this, I just want you to see. So this is the pocket. That's the pocket size. It matches up with the pockets that I've created. But the pockets points on here are much too big. So I'm not really sure why that is. If anybody's ever made this pattern, can you tell me why the points to where you're supposed to mark on your actual pants are way different size than the actual pocket? I don't know. Now that the front and the back pieces have their pockets on, it's time to sew the front and back pieces together at the crotch seams. So I did skip the putting on belt loops. That's actually the next step, but I'm not going to put belt loops on. I'm never going to wear a belt with these, and it just, I don't want them on there. So if you are following along and sewing along with this, if you want belt loops, just know that that would actually be the next step. But for me, I am going to go on to sewing the front seams together right here. Now I'm going to sew these front pieces together at the crotch seam using a 5/8 inch of seam allowance and sewing wrong sides together. So now I have sewn down the seam with the wrong sides together using the 5/8 inch seam allowance. And then it wants me to cut this seam, one side of the seam, I'm gonna go with the right side, down to 3/8 of an inch. This is what it looks like with the one side cut down. Then I am going to, wants me to fold this over like this. So fold under and then over that seam allowance like that. And then I'm going to go over and press this down and pin it as I go. So now this front center seam is finished, the flat fill seam is complete, and I'm gonna do this exact same thing on the back side as well, but I'm not going to show you that because it's literally the same process as I just did. One thing to note that is different on the back side is that you want to cut off the opposite side that you did on the front. So you're gonna trim down the left side instead of the right side. That way when you match the front to the back, the seam is continuous, going the same way from front to back. It is the next day, and so where we left off are the pockets are on, and the front and back have been stitched together at the middle seams. Next step is sewing the strap pieces together and then attaching them at the top here. So I am going to sew along this line here and keeping the bottom part open. Now these are sewn together and I'm just going to go ahead and trim the seam allowance along the edges. Finally turned this inside out, but it was a little bit of a finagle because this material is so thick that it's a little difficult to get it started. And so I had started with this, just kind of pulling the fabric from the inside, kind of snagging just somewhere up here with this little tool. Let's see if I can do that. The worry with this thing is like, I'm afraid it's gonna, if I pull too hard, because this fabric is so thick and has no stretch, I'm afraid it's gonna rip. So there's, I started it again. This one actually feels like it might be coming, but I'm gonna take this out now. I can, oh shoot. Then I'm taking this little knitting needle because I'm garbagey. I have real sewing tools here. And I'm using the blunt end to push through the bottom. I didn't have this problem with the last fabric, but my last fabric had a little bit more stretch than this. And so it's just not like pulling through. Like I keep licking my fingers because I have no grip on this. I'm at least just trying to get this part out. Okay. Come on, come on. You got it. I believe in you. I conquered them. Okay, they're both turned right side out, and now I'm gonna go press them, and then we will top stitch around the edge. I have both the straps finished and top stitched, and I've lined them up at the top of the back evenly in the middle, and now I'm going to sew those down together. So I basted the top here within the seam allowance, so these are attached, and now I have to finish the edge of this facing that will go over here, and then I will attach it to here. So I've sewn down the side seams as well as I could, and now I am going to finish the side seam here. Before I continue, I'm going to overlock this and this all the way down. This is what it looks like after I serged the edges, and now I'm gonna flip this part right side out. I'm just gonna get those corners with this knitting needle best as I can. Okay, so there that is. I'm attaching the crotch seams at the center here, and then I'm going to sew them all along here, wrong sides together, because we're also going to do the flat fell seam here. So I'm going to pin this, and then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and sew it down, and then try on the jeans and see how they fit. Now I am choosing to start sewing these together at the center seam, and I just feel it's a little easier to make sure that everything's lining up in the center than starting from one of the leg ends. But you know, like, do whatever you want. Don't take my word for it. I'm not a professional at this. This is only the second pair I've ever made of real pants, so you do you, okay? The crotch is all sewn together, and now I'm just going to go and do a flat fell seam to this seam, but I'm not going to show you that because I've already done that a few times, but I will be back once that is done. I've sewn the crotch seam together, and it didn't line up perfectly, as you can see, but oh well, hopefully it doesn't really matter too much. Now I'm going to overlock the edges here on both sides because I'm going to sew them together and then input the zipper. But as you can see, I did try them on, and this is where I want my waist to be. This is how much extra there is for my waist. It's quite a lot, since they're supposed to sit at the waist. So I'm not gonna do that yet. I'm just going to overlock the edges, and then I'm gonna try them on again, and maybe even sew up to here, and then try them on and see if I need to adjust, how I need to adjust the waist. So let's do that first. The side seam raw edges I have been finished, and I've marked out where I think I need this waist area to come in on both sides. So I think now the step is to finish the side seams and put the zipper in. My hope was that I would only need to use one zipper. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish at least this side and then baste from this side up as if I'm going to put a zipper in, but not do one side of the zipper. See how the fit is before finishing the other zipper, or eliminating the other zipper if I can, if that made any sense. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to baste to here and then sew down this side of the leg. I've kind of just pinned these up here to hold them in place in the back. And this is the side that I have basted in place. So you can see that is basted. It's kind of puckering funny right here, and I'm not sure if it just needs to be, it just has to be pressed. I'll try that. If not, I'll take a look at that seam. But once these are closed in the 1.5 inches on each side, if I can do it with one hand, it will look more like that, which I think will be cute. And I think one zipper will suffice for these. So I think they're looking nice. The length is obviously going to have to be altered, but for the most part they look pretty good. So I'm going to continue with putting the zipper on this side, and then we'll finish the seam on this side without a zipper. I've basted the side I'm going to put my zipper on. I basted it shut. So here it is. I'm not cutting off the seam allowance yet because I just want to make sure that after I put the zipper in and I try them on, that it fits. So I've basted this shut, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit my zipper here along the middle of the basting stitch. I'm going to pin it, and then I'm going to go to my sewing machine with a zipper foot and sew this along here. Zipper is in, so I was able to just do one zipper. I didn't need two, and here it is. So here's a close-up view of the zipper after I've done that. Up here is a little wonky, but well, you know, you just do your best. Next thing to do is attach the bib, but because I took off so much from my side seams, this bib is too big. So I have to mark on my bib how much I took off, which was 1.5 inches. And then I'm adding in seam allowance. So this is my seam allowance. And then I'm gonna cut this part off. And then it should fit nicely on the front here. I have the bib over here, getting ready to press it. I've notched out these corners up at the top, and then I'm going to press down the top here 3/8 of an inch, and then the rest of them I'm pressing down 5/8 of an inch. The bib is sewn down, and now I'm going to finish the pocket that goes in the front. But I have to, I'm gonna go serge all the edges, and then I'm going to fold over the seam allowances and sew those down. The pocket is on, and now I am going to put this onto the front and center it in the front here, and then I'm going to sew it down with a 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to serge the edges together, and then we're almost done. Just want to show you what I did. I sewed the front bib to the pants, and then I overlocked this seam. Now this is different than the instructions want you to do it, but I just thought this was easier. And so this is what I'm gonna do. I finished that seam with the overlock. So I'm going to press this down like that in the front, and then I'm going to start here, continue all the way. I'm going to press this edge from the back in at the same time, and then I'm going to come around here. I know, again, the instructions don't say this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish this seam. I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to come down all the way around here and finish this seam all at one time. So here I am, just finishing the seam allowance along the back and the bib, and here are my finished overalls. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.